You know what? Spotify just doesn't do it for me anymore. I need to listen to something real. That's the stuff. Music wasn't exactly a new thing in the 1900s. It had already been around for a while, but with the rapid evolution in instruments and recording equipment, this century will become a massive musical awakening for people all around the world. But for the sake of our group's personal well-being, we'll be restricting ourselves to the US. You like jazz? Cool, because that was one of the first few genres that came to gain popularity in this cool new century. With the soothing brass instruments you're hearing right now, it was mostly developed by African American communities because, of course, the glorious United States had large differences between the races and their lifestyles. Who could have seen that one coming? This new form of art later evolved into more genres throughout the century. Around the 1920s, cinema started gaining more and more life, and with it, music grew as well. Composers started working for movie-making companies to give more depth to the movies and to theatrical pieces at the time, and thus, Broadway was born. I've inserted this clip of myself because my life is often considered a movie. Not in the epic, cool story kind of way, but more like The Matrix Resurrections. It's a terrible sequel to what was once an okay childhood. Now, speaking of living in misery, folk music, as the name implies, is essentially the people's music, and is more laid back and focused on the lyrics. It originated around 1930, and it tells tales of war, immigration, and economic hardship, which luckily were only fiction, as those were definitely not coming in the 40s. These kinds of songs, being less formal, also spoke of nonsense, satire, and love, which are all basically the same thing. Around 1935, jazz made a big bounce back as a bouncier version of itself. This new subgenre, named swing, was basically just faster jazz that was easier to dance to. It evoked joy due to its more cheerful sounds, with dance moves that would mimic those of soldiers dodging bullets in the war that was definitely not around the corner. Around 1940, near the start of the Second World War, pop appeared. And I don't mean the popping of gunshots on the battlefield, I mean pop music, which is nothing like it is today. Pop was kind of like swing, but professional, and also white. This genre absolutely exploded in popularity. Old man Frank Sinatra, who you might know, was one of the most notorious pop artists, as his records flew to the moon and his profits played among the stars. This was a major turning point for music. R&B, which also originated around this time, was America's way of once again dividing the population by race. God bless America. This music was like jazz, with heavier, insistent beats, which was marketed towards the African American population. But as it turned out, white people liked it too. Who would have thought musical taste isn't actually determined by your race? Then the war ended and the 50s came by. Classical, jazz, and folk music continued to innovate, and all was well. But then, around the 60s, the stereotypical American man attacked. Country music evolved from simple campfire songs about cowboys and booze to complex songs about cowboys and booze. Took a single breath of fresh air and was violently crushed by rock and roll. Elvis Presley became absolutely massive as he revolutionized rock with every single song he worked on and every hate crime he committed along the way. The 70s finally brought some form of peace to the US. Tension from the Vietnam War slowly dropping. I didn't talk about Nam because they lost it. Don't tell the CIA I said this. But tensions from the Cold War is still somewhat present at all times. Rock music grew at a wild rate, and new genres started spreading their roots. Disco, pop, R&B, and various forms of metal surged forward, with Queen, ABBA, Bee Gees, and Fleetwood Mac standing out as some of the leaders of this movement. In 1980, with a great increase in use of synthesizers and also some drugs, the musical world exploded, and I mean exploded. In this decade alone, a large amount of genres, old and new, saw the light of day, and the Billboard's Top 100, which doesn't actually say that much about their quality, but among these genres are post-disco, Eurodisco, but not normal disco, because that's out of style now, dance pop, soft rock, alt rock, glam metal, thrash metal, synth pop, electronic, techno, house, freestyle, Eurodance. These last few also got big in the 90s, but we'll get on that soon, probably. R&B, hip-hop, rap, and urban genres became common and exploded in 2000. Post-punk, goth rock, and heavy metal also gained popularity in direct function to the rise in depression and anger issues among teens. Whoops. This decade was huge for music and served as a great setup for the upcoming decade of music, where it all fell apart, or fell together. It really depends on your taste. Hey, this song's getting old. I wonder what's up next. Oh, we're no strangers to the 90s. You know the genres, and so do I. 80s trends continued. Disco fell off, but electronic got real popular. Teen pop, dance pop, synth pop, and all the pops grew exponentially. Soul which had originated in the 50s but hadn't seen that much light, finally got some screen time with all the new branches of itself. Electronic and dance music also had many subgenres appear, which gave it more versatility and allowed it to reach a bigger audience. But pop and rock music still reigned supreme, with Mariah Carey being elected Artist of the 90s decade in the United States by Billboard, which still is not exactly the best source of information. Boy bands appeared with silly little music videos for a while. Michael Jackson, being the king of the white genre, became white, and Britney Spears released some hit songs and later took over the 2000s. Wait, Britney was born in 81? She's 40? What? You know what? I'm only covering the 20th century, and luckily, the 2000s are not the 20th century. Which is handy, because after an existential crisis over the constant passing of time, I don't want to listen to this anymore.